Noah Schmick alongside the voice of Idaho Vandals football, Dennis Patchin. Of course, Dennis, you're back in the old building, but we've got a whole lot to talk about, especially when it comes to the, of course, season opener, a season opening loss, 13-10 down in Pullman between the Cougars and the Vandals. If you're a Coug fan, you might be a little uneasy. If you're a Vandal fan, I feel like you're pretty excited after that.
I think you are to a point.
Okay.
And I think you talked about Washington State. Everybody overreacts the first week of the season, so you can be disappointed, but only to a point. And if you are beyond that, hold on. Idaho, you got to be excited for the fact that they were able to run the football. They were able to control the line of scrimmage. But there are things that, you got to be able to throw the football. I mean, even before the crazy, wacky play that they lost all those yards on the laterals, they only had 60 yards in passing in this game. They didn't get much of a pass rush in this game, and that's something in the Big Sky Conference. If you don't have a pass rush, you got real problems because everybody likes to throw the football. So I think there are positives to build on. There are areas to improve, and the old saying is that teams improve the most during a season from week 1 to week 2, and I think a lot of people believe that, and it'll be interesting to see as now they transition. Now we've played somebody else. Now we know it worked, we know it didn't work, and now let's get on with the season.
Well, maybe let's start with some of the negatives. Well, maybe we'll end with the positives.
Okay.
Let's talk about the negatives first in this matchup. I think one of the things that jumps off the paper, not a whole lot of passing for the Vandals. Now, of course, you're playing against an FBS team and a team that did have a lot of transfers, a lot of veteran players come over, and we saw how the pass game, at least for Idaho, it was not non-existent, because Joshua Wood, we know he can throw the ball around, but he had to use his legs a lot.
He did. One of the things I was encouraged, and we'll get to the passing, is even though he did run and he scrambled out on a couple of plays, it wasn't just one read and then he took off. There were progressions in there. You got to give Washington State some credit. They covered Idaho. Now, is that a case where the Idaho receivers couldn't get separation? Was that a case of the plays weren't designed properly? Was that a case of the Cougar secondary might be pretty good? So, I mean, those are all those kind of things, and we'll hear from the coaches throughout the week as they get ready for their next game. What actually was it? I think you saw Joshua Wood throw the football, and when he had time to throw the football, which was most times, and when he had a guy open, he put that ball in. There was a pass play where he dropped it in between two defenders. That was, a really good play. The ball to Michael Graves, that was ruled incomplete, or was a fumble incomplete. That was a really nice throw. There were some things that he saw. The ability for him to be able to run, though, is also going to set up the ability for him to be able to pass, because he can keep plays alive. Guys are going to have to come up. Their teams are going to have to spot him, which allows more guys to be open. So I think there's some positives, but we got to, if Idaho's going to be where they want to be, and that's a playoff team at the end of the year, they got to be able to move the football down the field through the air, not the dink and dunk stuff.
Yeah, and of course only the first game of the season. Like you said, though, I do think there is something to say, credit to Washington State. I think they did have, a few veterans, a few of those South Dakota State transfers that helped out, like Tucker Large at safety. I'm sure he was playing a little bit of a blanket cover in the cover 3 or cover 0 or whatever it was. But one thing that I did notice, and I don't know, maybe if you noticed it too, and you actually kind of mentioned it too, the separation. I felt like, you lose some of the guys from last year that were standout wide receivers. Now it's kind of like, who's going to step up and fill in? I mean, was there someone that maybe had a little bit of a spotlight on them? It just felt like that was the thing that I saw, was not a whole lot of the pass game work.
The two guys that were really the most productive guys last year that returned were Tony Harsty and Cortez Menjivar, Emerson Cortez Menjivar. Those guys did not get a whole lot of touches in this game. I don't know if they were doubling them, making somebody up. Ryan Jarizio, who hadn't taken a snap in a game, had more catches combined than those two guys. So it's an interesting thing. The other thing is they've got two guys that can play tight end in Hoffman and Jake Cox, and those two guys, pretty talented. They didn't get a lot of even targets in this game. Honestly, I think Idaho went into this game trying to run the football.
Yeah.
And we're going to run the football, and that's what we're going to do, and then you're going to have to stop the run. And when they did stop the run, they weren't able to complete the pass. But Idaho had some pretty good success in running the football. Eli Cummings was okay in that game. Wood was really good, especially on the design runs, not just the scramble runs, the design runs. They ran a little speed option, so they looked pretty good in that. So I mean, it wasn't. I don't think the passing game was the focus of this week. It might be next week. We don't know. But again, that secondary for Washington State was all South Dakota State guys who transferred in. Those guys were 27-3 in the last 2 years, won a national championship when they were, sophomores and juniors. So it's a situation where it might not be as bad as it is. But I think that's a concern if you're an Idaho fan. Can Harsty, Cortez Menjivar, and the rest step up to be where they have? Because you thought about it, it was, 2 years ago it was J.J. Jackson and Hatton. Last year was Mark Hamper and Austin Dwyer. I mean, they need lightning to strike 3 times. We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
We'll have to see. Okay, we kind of talked negatives because, to be honest with you, the Idaho defense was impressive. Of course, looking at, you always have to look at the opponent, and the Cougs weren't 100% sure. Nobody really knew exactly who was going to be the quarterback. Now, obviously, Jimmy Rogers said in his press conference before the game was saying, hey, we know who our quarterback is going to be, and that's who it is. Well, then they went to their backup quarterback. Anyways, not even to look at the WSU side of things, Isaiah King had a game to remember.
10 tackles in that game, yeah.
Yeah, and then, of course, I felt like the Idaho defensive line really controlled the trenches throughout the game.
They absolutely did as far as the run game was going. One of the things that Idaho didn't get a lot of pressure in 4-man rush situations. The time they got pressure, Deuce Blemon came off the corner one time on a corner blitz where Washington State had to throw the ball away early in Potter. He didn't read that corner blitz coming, and there were some other times where they went 5- and 6-man, and they got some pressure. They didn't get a lot of pressure 4-man, so we'll figure that out. But as far as stopping the run, Mitch Jashowiak in the middle of that defense, along with Zach Krotzer, really dominant. Sam Brown had a really good game. Matthias McLean had a really good game. So I think if you're an Idaho fan, way better positives on defense. The only thing concerning was the 2 drives that Washington State put together in that game. They pretty much abandoned the run, okay? And sometimes when you do that, you become one-dimensional, but they weren't really able to get pressure on those 2 drives, including the one for the field goal. And the other thing they weren't able to do is they weren't able to stop them. And there was in both drives, the scoring drive in the first half, and then the drive to win the game, 3 times in both drives, first down to first down to first down. I mean, so there's some things that they have to work on. But all in all, I think there were more positives in this game than negatives, except for the outcome of the final score.
Yeah, well, let's talk about some of those positives. I don't want to do overreactions just yet, but at least for myself, I would even say Joshua Wood looked very, very good. And I mean, he was versatile. He looks like he could be one of the best FCS players. I know it's only week 1, but he might be one of the best college football FCS quarterbacks right now, because that guy can run it. And when you start playing against other talent within the Big Sky or anything coming up here in the season, he's going to find people open, and they're going to start to, the team chemistry is going to come along, especially between him and the wide receivers. But what did you love the most? What was the biggest positive, maybe? Here's
what I look at. I look at when somebody starts their first game, and that was actually his second start because he started the bowl game because Fresno State had their quarterback going to the transfer portal last season. He didn't look afraid. Okay, that was a big crowd. That was a noisy crowd. It's an 8-mile game. It's a semi-rivalry game. He didn't look afraid. When young players, doesn't matter the sport, basketball, baseball, football, they don't look afraid, that's always a positive sign. The other thing I think you need to take out of that is every time I hear the name, this quarterback can really move this team with his feet. I worry about drop back, one read, not open, boom, take off. He did not do that at all. He went through his progressions and then he took off in his design runs. I think there's plenty to build on here, and he will tell you, I'm sure, if you talk to him this week, he was disappointed he wasn't able to throw the football more, but it's an evolution. And you got to remember, he's only a redshirt sophomore. He didn't play his entire first year at Fresno State, was on the scout team. Last year he didn't play hardly at all. Played some packages situations where they were going to run, not pass the football, and then at the start of the bowl game. So I think it's a positive. I think they're going to build on that, and I think that if you're an Idaho Vandal fan, I don't think you have to worry about the quarterback situation. I think Joshua Wood's just going to be just fine.
What do you think about the running backs? I mean, we knew Elijah Cummings was going to be good. Art Williams, I mean, all three of those guys, including Joshua Wood being in the running game,
right.
They really showed out. I mean, you have to be excited about that.
I think you do. I think Washington State did a really good job when Eli Cummings got the football and not give him any of those cutback lanes, which he is famous for. I think that defense was well prepared. Not every defense is going to be that prepared. Eli's going to have a great season. Nate Thomas didn't play in that game. He's the 1-2 punch. He's the inside guy. And I think what Idaho is going to do, if everybody's healthy, is you're going to see an equal dose of Art Williams, Nate Thomas, and Eli Cummings. I think when Thomas returns, gives you another option, gives you another guy. I don't think you have to worry about it. I think this offensive line is better. The improvement in blocking. They were a pretty good pass blocking group last year. Now they've shuffled the line a little bit. And with the two tight ends, this team can really run the football. That might be the strength of their football. But they also should be able to throw the football. And with Cox and Hoffman at the tight ends, there's a lot. And those two guys were on the field a lot together in Saturday's game.
Now, I know you're up in the press box. You didn't get to see maybe down on the sideline level field. Can you give a grade for head coach Thomas Ford Jr. on, first game? I mean, they came out and they really took it to WSU, and I'm not really talking about the after-field semantics. I don't know how much you saw about that.
I did see that, but a lot of times you only see the second thing, so you don't really know how it got started. And coaches won't worry about that unless it continues to be a problem. I thought he was fine. I don't think there was any question, if there was on Idaho fans and you're not paying attention, that this man can recruit, okay? Their special teams were better, and that's where he was. He was the special teams coordinator when he was at Idaho. He was an assistant for 2 years, as long as the running back coach. Some of that stuff got cleaned up. I didn't see anything that that made me say, oh no, this night might be good for him. I think Thomas Ford is a good coach. I think Thomas Ford believes in his kids. I think he is very in tune with this team, and I think he's the right guy for the job.
Very enthusiastic too. We saw him all over the sidelines. He brings a lot of energy.
Yeah,
he brings a lot of energy.
Jason Eck was the same way.
Yeah, very true. Yeah. No, I mean, you don't get to see a whole lot of drop off if you're an Idaho fan. You like to see the passion.
I think if there's one concern, if you're Thomas Ford after week one, is Idaho shot themselves in the foot on numerous occasions. The second drive, I think it was the second drive of the game, first drive of the game, early in the first quarter. They had a nice drive where they had 3 first downs and had a 2nd down and 1 and got a 10-yard penalty. Joshua Wood had 2 personal fouls, one where he got tackled, he was getting up, and he pushed the guy in the back of the head. The other one was on the other side, and I didn't think he could have let it go. He stepped over a guy, and they threw the flag. Too many of those mistakes, too many mental mistakes in this game. Physical mistakes are going to happen. You're going to get whooped. I mean, there are times you're not going to block a guy. You're not going to make the block. You might even drop a ball. But the mental mistakes, the holds, the penalty, some of those things, you have to be able to clean that up. Yeah. Those penalties, 2 holding calls that I remember, and the 2 personal fouls killed 4 drives. You make one of those drives into points, you win the football game. So that's something that Idaho's going to have to clean up. But Noah, that's something a lot of teams have to clean up from week 1 to week 2 is some of those mistakes. Because remember, nobody's played a game since November or December. It's been a long time.
Yeah, and I'm sure Idaho fans, they're all happy that they had chances to win this game multiple times, and they probably should have, to be 100% honest with you. So I guess just looking forward as we kind of wrap things up here. St. Thomas, Minnesota, their next game. We just saw this is being recorded on Monday, so we saw during Coach Ford's presser that Fightin Taters.
On the helmet. Joe Vandal out. The Fightin Taters is on the helmet. So I don't know. When we record this, we do the coaches show on Tuesday. I got to ask, can I use Vandals this week, or do I have to call them the Fightin Taters? It'll be interesting to see what adjustments this team has made from week 1 to week 2. But it's also an FCS team now. In fact, and this is an FCS team that plays in the Pioneer League, Pioneer Conference, which is a non-scholarship conference. Nobody else. Drake is in that league. I think San Diego's in that league, and there's some other teams in that league. They don't have scholarships, so it'll be interesting to see. It's also at home, so we'll see how that factors in. But St. Thomas has a very rich history. They were a powerhouse in Division III. They were the Alabama under Nick Saban of Division III football. They got so good that they kicked them out of their league. They said, "Hit the road. You're too good." So St. Thomas had made the transition into the FCS ranks. I think we're going to get more out of this game than we did the Cougar game. Now, here's the other thing is, you play a team the first game of the season, you think, yeah, we're good there, we weren't good. Well, let's see what happens to Washington State in 3 weeks. And maybe the things we thought in game 1 that were bad weren't as bad because the other team was doing something, and vice versa. The same thing can be said. If Idaho goes on, let's say Idaho goes on and beats wins the 2 home games, St. Thomas, Utah Tech, and then somehow goes down and beats San Jose State. Now, if you're a Cougar fan, you feel a lot better about your team than it is here. So you always have to play that. I can't make a whole lot of overreaction Monday or overreaction Sunday. You can't do that week 1. Week 7, week 8, yeah, maybe you can. But it'll be interesting to see back at home, like division, see what and adjustments made. Now we know what we can do, and we know what we got to get better with.
Yeah, well, St. Thomas, Minnesota, that game on Saturday, of course, in the Kibbie Dome, also on SWX. So going to be a lot of fun. Dennis, as always, so happy to see you back here in the station, and thanks for your time. We appreciate it.
I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to you and I talking about Idaho football every week. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, we'll see you next episode.